Hey there, I'm Rob Anderson. Welcome back to the Moneybeard channel. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Play the intro first. Okay, thank you. We're going to do something a little bit different today. If you're new here, normally this channel is all about teaching you the principles of creative entrepreneurship, personal finance, helping you make more money, doing something you love. Today, we're going to do something slightly different. Today, I'm going to react to something I found on Reddit because I found a picture that is so indicative of the money problems that most people have. This picture could be the profile picture for money problems in our society. This picture should be called the "Why I Will Never Be Able to Retire" photo. And the comments on it, well, we'll get to the comments, but this picture is actually called, "Okay, my neighbor is just showing off now." And here's the picture. Wow. Okay, so look at this. What we have here is apparently someone that's taken a picture of their neighbor's house. And first of all, I'm going on the basis that this picture is real. I'm making this video on the premise that the picture is real because the picture looks real to me. It looks to be a real photo. All of the shadows make sense. All of the shadows are accurate. Everything you can see through the windows of the cars looks accurate. The light refracts properly. Everything looks real. And all of the comments on here are being made as if this is a real photo. And the context that this was posted under is the context that it is a real photo. And that's what everyone's reactions are based on. And that's what we're going to talk about. But first, let's break down this picture just a little bit. I want to get into what we're looking at here in this photo. We have here in the driveway and lawn of this person's house here, a McLaren 570S, which even used is around a $160,000 car. Behind that is parked what appears to be a classic Camaro. I'm not an expert on classic cars, but it looks maybe like around, I don't know, maybe a 68, 69 Camaro Z28, I think. I know those Camaros can go for around the $75,000 range a lot of times. And then we've also got an ATV here, which I don't know too much about. I'm going to assume that ATV might have cost around, what do these things cost? Around 10,000? I don't know. Somebody let me know. But these cars are parked in the driveway, again, assuming that the owner of the cars owns, or let's be honest, probably rents the house. They're parked in the driveway of what appears to be a working class to somewhat middle class neighborhood. This actually reminds me a lot of the neighborhood that I grew up in. A couple notable things about this house here you'll see is that there is a window AC unit, a deteriorating asphalt driveway, and some cables going up to the roof for what looks like maybe an attached satellite dish. None of those things really scream out wealthy individual with a high credit score and disposable income to me. I want to make this really clear too. I don't know these people's situation. I don't know their income level. I don't know anything about them other than what I can gather from this photo. And when I look at this photo, I see a home in a very average neighborhood that needs some work put into it. And then I see some very nice, very expensive cars sitting in the driveway of this home. I'm gonna run some numbers here and see what their situation might be like as far as payments go on these cars. Let's say they got the McLaren for around $150,000. They got a really good deal, and they financed it by putting $2,500 down on it. And let's say they financed over 72 months at 7% interest, and we'll factor in 7% sales tax. That would leave them with a $2,760 payment on the McLaren, and running similar numbers on a Camaro, if they got it for around, let's say $76,000, would leave them with a $1,387 car payment. That's a total car payment each month of $4,147. And look, I don't know these people's financial situation. I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know anything about them other than what I can gather from this photo. But the fact that they're living in a house without air conditioning tells me that they are probably over their heads on car payments here. And I know some people will watch this video and they'll say, you know, so what? Who am I to have an opinion on how anyone else spends their money? And to some degree, I think they're right. You know, it's none of my business how anybody else spends their money. It's up to them. But these are the decisions that lead to the sorts of problems that I talked about in my video recently about how people can make $200,000 and still be completely broke. And this is a perfect illustration of that. So I would like to offer a little bit more than just criticism here. I'd like to offer you some insight, maybe a different path you could take that would lead to, instead of the money problems so many people face, that would lead to a better financial future and more security. You know, besides just general money problems, there is a huge issue right now with people hitting retirement age and not having enough money in the bank to cover them for the rest of their lives after they finish working. While this is not the only money factor behind that, dumb money decisions like buying a McLaren 570S on a $70,000 salary is a contributing factor. So before we get to the comments here, which will be interesting, let's just say that these folks were more interested in increasing their net worth than driving a couple of cars they can't afford that are going to create money problems for the rest of their lives. Let's say they drove something a little more sensible here and they kept their car payments to $671 a month. That would save them $3,500 per month. And let's say they took that $3,500 and they put it into an index fund yielding 5% interest. And let's say they did that over the 72-month period that they would normally be paying down these super expensive cars. If they did that, they could have almost $297,000 in the bank when they're done. That's enough money to buy a new house in cash with air conditioning. Or better yet, it's enough to invest in several rental properties, maybe a restaurant franchise, something that will provide you with passive income so you can retire early. All right, so I'm gonna look through the comments here and offer my reaction, but I just wanted to illustrate just sort of the mindset and these habits that lead to people's money problems. And I just wanted to offer you some ideas for a better path that'll lead to financial freedom instead. Let's see if anybody in the comments here is on board with that, shall we? Looks like he has his priorities straight. 12 points. LOL at thinking someone buying a depreciating asset has their priorities straight. Downvoted to oblivion. What do you know? The person that got downvoted here again is correct. It's just so crazy to me that so many people don't realize what a financial mistake this is. And again, a lot of these could be 12-year-olds. I don't know. But enough people are agreeing with this and upvoting it. It just shows me that a lot of people don't realize how many money problems living a lifestyle like this will lead to. I could live my life the same way, nice cars, but a mediocre house, as long as it's newly renovated, as long as you have a roof above your head, right? Again, you can live your life however you'd like to. Do whatever makes you happy, but again, this sounds like this person is planning on living at the very end of their means. As long as they can afford a roof above their head in a mediocre house, but they can have all their nice cars that are going to depreciate, they'll be happy. If that's what would make you happy, great. But after a lifetime of doing that, when you're tired of working, when you reach the age of 50, of 60, 70 years old, and you wonder why you don't have any money, just keep in mind, this is why. This sort of mindset, again, leads to being broke, and this is it. The neighbor decided that being a car enthusiast is worth living in a smaller, more budget house, okay? It is a valid and his decision to make such a compromise as long as he isn't going into debt for his hobby. Okay, we're not gonna touch the grammar on this one, but I just want to make it abundantly clear that there is no way this person is not going into debt for their hobby. If you can afford to purchase cars like this for cash, over $200,000 worth of cars, then you can absolutely afford a nicer house with AC and not a busted up driveway. It just surprises me that anyone else's view on money would not allow them to see that this person is in a severe amount of debt in their situation right now. I'm not sure why some people can't seem to comprehend why someone wouldn't want a big, expensive house. Okay. I'm single and have no need for a big house. In fact, I don't want a house at all. I want to rent since I'm 26, and based on where I'm at in life, being tied down to a house would be a horrible financial decision. So that's actually a very valid point, and I'm actually glad to hear them say that. Not everyone wants or needs to live in a big, expensive house. Although, if someone is buying a supercar collection, you would assume that they could also afford a big, nice house with a large garage to keep these cars in. Again, it just sort of indicates that these people are spending more than they have and they're living above their means. Also, what this guy says about being tied down to a house would be a horrible financial decision. It very well may be, especially maybe if he doesn't have enough money to put down on that house. It may not be the right choice for him right now. You definitely don't want to tie yourself down to a mortgage payment that you can't afford because you haven't put enough money down, or maybe you got in at a really high interest rate. That would not be a good financial decision. So kudos to this guy. He also says, not that horrible financial decisions are below me. I feel like people jump to LOL shows where the priorities are since they are just jealous. Oh, man. Anyone joking about the priorities of someone that parks a McLaren in a driveway of a house like this, They're right. These people are making a terrible financial decision and other people are just pointing it out. They get it. Not skewed, just different. I'd prefer to have a modest house and killer cars, and other people would prefer the opposite. I agree with you. I'd rather have dream cars over a big house that's always going to be empty. The implication here on these comments is that you have to choose between one or the other. And again, if you're having to choose between one or the other, you really can't afford these types of cars. Purchasing $200,000 worth of vehicles while making far below that is just not a good financial decision. And again, it's going to leave you strapped for cash and broke for life. This sort of mindset of spending to the very limits of what you can afford, going into debt at high interest rates for long periods of time, this is the mindset that keeps people broke and having money problems instead of being able to look in the bank and see a big number with a bunch of figures and a comma in the middle. I plan to live in a shop with an attached apartment to store my growing car and motorcycle collection. Hopefully I'll be able to within a few years. So it sounds like this person has a few vehicles and they're working towards the point where they can afford a place to store all of their depreciating assets. Again, that's another big problem with this. You buy cars and motorcycles and stuff, most of them, the vast majority of these are going to depreciate. Doing this is not going to grow your net worth. This should not be viewed as an investment for the future. A lot of these will depreciate over time, and month by month, your net worth is actually shrinking instead of growing. Financially, that's the problem here. Same here. I believe it'll be a great investment as well. Oh man, that is just so painful to read when someone uses the word investment when speaking about buying a vehicle. Unless you are talking about buying a true classic vehicle that is known to appreciate over time, or you're buying a limited run supercar. And I'm not talking about like a Lamborghini Huracan. I'm talking about if you're going out and buying like a McLaren P1 or a Senna or something that is, first of all, multi-million-dollar car. This is not an investment. This is not where your money grows by storing vehicles in a garage. Almost never on this episode of Lottery Ruined My Life. This guy gets it. Even if this person hit the lottery and that's how they're affording these cars, that's the problem with hitting the lottery. A lot of people that hit the lottery have never had money. They don't know how to manage any amount of money whatsoever. And they end up just buying things, and it does literally ruin their life. There's a whole TV show about it. Money is just so much better invested before it's played with and spent. And it's good to see that someone is actually talking about that here. Actually, one of my friends lives in a nice neighborhood, but not crazy nice. He has a Range Rover, McLaren, and a new F-250. He owns a small dealership. Okay, so we have a small business owner here that owns a few cars. Maybe a couple too many cars, depending on how well the dealership's doing. But anytime someone is at least mid-level in the car business, it seems like they can secure some pretty sick cars, buy them cheap, drive them a while, sell them at a profit. I'd do the same thing. I'd do that too if that actually worked. But even a car dealer buying a car new at dealer invoice pricing, after a year, that car has depreciated so far below the original dealer invoice, you're not able to sell that car at a profit anymore. Someone that has a Range Rover and a McLaren and an F-250, let's say they own a small car dealership. Hey, even same thing we just talked about in the video I mentioned that I did. They're maybe making a couple $100,000, but they're going broke on their payments, on their toys they have to buy. And it's always to just maintain that outward appearance of that they're doing great and they have a lot of money and wealth and money and everything's awesome. In fact, I mean, look, this comment proves it. They clearly have led the person making this comment to believe that they're doing great. And maybe they are. I don't know their situation, but small dealership, that to me does not signify that they run a major car dealership where they're bringing in a seven-figure income. Cars are depreciating value. Thank you, finally, someone for saying it. These will go down over time. They will cost you money. They will not make you money. They will not increase your net worth. They are a depreciating asset is what I think he meant to say there. It's how I'd prefer to live. A modest house, modest neighborhood, savage cars. Again, pretty much the same thing we talked about with a previous comment where they're implying that they're living at the very ends of their means and what they can afford to live at. Again, I'll say it again. If that makes them happy, great, do it. Just know that when you get later on in life and you're wondering why you don't have money, this is the reason. Awesome cars and all morons comment about the house. Pathetic, poor. I'm going to assume this is like a 12-year-old, I hope. Morons are not commenting about the house. I guess I'm a moron, actually, says a 12-year-old on the internet. It's a very valid comment to make that the house needs fixing up before they go buying $200,000 worth of vehicles. It's just interesting to me to look at this and see that the mindset of someone like this is that the priority should be on parking an expensive car in the driveway rather than making sure you have a house that's in proper condition to live in. Bet they can't afford to go on a vacation or do anything nice because they care so much about their cars. Downvoted to oblivion. Why am I not surprised? But this person's right. Again, like in my being broke making $200,000 video, you don't have any more money left over. After you do this, even if you're making a great income, $4,000 a month in car payments. That is so much money to be spending on a car. The general rule for how much you should spend on a car is that your car payment plus insurance and other expenses for the car should not be more than 10 to 15% of your gross salary each month. That means factoring in insurance, these people would have to be making somewhere probably around $50,000 a month to actually afford these cars. Yeah, I'm sure they can't afford to go on a vacation or do anything nice. I'm sure that all they do is make car payments and do $900 oil changes on their McLaren at the dealership. I don't understand why people who are living in small old housing try to show off like this. Again, downvoted to oblivion, but they are so right on this. Part of the reason you own a car like this is to show off, okay? It is. Whether it's a stoplight or just to your neighbors, it's not really my thing to be so flashy that I give the finger to my neighbors about how much money I make. But part of the reason people buy a car like this is to show off. Part of showing off like that is saying, hey, look at me. I make a ton of money. I'm a high status, high value person, and I can afford anything I want. When you're driving around in a car like this and you're going back to your house that doesn't have air conditioning, you're faking a lifestyle that you haven't earned. And I'd have to think that people who actually do make the money to afford six-figure cars look at folks like this that are faking it and they just kind of laugh at them. And not to mention the people that live in your neighborhood probably aren't impressed either. They probably view you as a douchebag. But again, this comment's downvoted to oblivion by 12-year-olds on the internet, so what do I know? So anyway, if you're still watching this video, what did you think? Should I do more videos like this? Just remember to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I'll be back here in a few days with another video on entrepreneurial advice. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you then.